Incredible midnight knock revealed a hidden danger. Grandma, run now. A life-changing escape. Ethan had barely settled into his nightly routine, curled up on the worn couch, the scent of Mabel's homemade cookies still lingering in the air, when the scream of the doorbell sliced through the silence like a serrated knife. The clock blinked a grim 12:05 a.m. His heart leaped into his throat. For a moment, he sat frozen, staring at the collection of trophies on the shelf, symbols of his hard work and dreams of being a firefighter. A frantic knock followed, rhythmic and heavy, sending Mabel into a frail state of alarm. She had always filled their cozy home with warmth and laughter, but tonight, her smile faltered, replaced by a frown etched with worry. "Ethan, what?" "Stay here, Grandma," he called, his voice a mixture of fear and duty. He swung open the door to find Mrs. Jenkins, their neighbor, her hair a wild halo of panic. "Ethan, you need to listen to me. There's been a wave of crimes. Families like yours are being targeted." Each word she uttered felt like a dagger piercing the fragile safety of their suburban world. Ethan's heart raced, his thoughts spinning. He turned back to Mabel, but her eyes reflected a darker reality, one he had avoided since losing his parents. The idea that their home, a sanctuary, could crumble under threat gripped him. "Ethan," Mabel gasped, clutching her chest, the brightness dimming in her eyes. "I can't take this, not again." He surged forward, wrapping his arms around her. The tightness in his own chest mirrored her fear. He realized then, in a flash of truth, that protecting Mabel was now his responsibility. The weight of it fell heavily on his shoulders. "We'll be okay," he promised, though his mind was already racing with helplessness. How could he protect her when he felt so powerless? The following days blurred into an oppressive haze of worry. Each creak of the floorboards turned sinister in the haunting quiet. School felt like a distant memory as Ethan found himself grappling not only with the complex emotions of teenage life but with the urgency born from the threat surrounding his home. Rallied by the passion he had for Mabel's well-being, he confronted his palpable fear and stepped out into the neighborhood. Yet, his attempts to organize, to confront the injustice spreading through their community, stumbled. He shouted about unity while standing in front of a small crowd, but his voice broke, his hands trembled. How could he expect anyone to join him when even he wavered under the burden of despair? Mabel's health began to decline, her vibrant spirit dimming like a flickering candle. In their living room, he glanced at the photographs capturing their joyful moments, the laughter they had shared despite tragedy. He felt a flicker inside him, ignited by the love they had cultivated. Fueled by that flame, he turned his sorrow into action. "We need to come together," he said, finally calling a community meeting. "This isn't just my fight, it's ours." The room crackled with anxiety, people whispering their fears, yet hope glimmered just faintly in the air. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Ethan looked around the room, he saw not just neighbors but a family united against the tide of fear. Each shared voice contributed to the tapestry of their struggle, and together they began to weave a plan. But as the night wore on, whispers of the culprits behind the crimes revealed something darker, a disdain rooted deep in inequality. As Ethan locked eyes with Mabel, uncertainty loomed. Could they truly face this unknown threat? Would he have the strength to protect the last family he had? And with that uncertainty, the winds of change began to blow, drawing them closer to a confrontation they never saw coming. The meeting lingered in the air as uncertainty settled like a heavy fog over the assembled crowd. Ethan felt the stirring of voices around him, muttering fears before falling silent, all eyes on him. He took a deep breath, his heart pounding. "Look, I know we're scared," he began, trying to project calm amidst the chaos swirling inside him. But it's time to stop hiding, to stop letting fear dictate our lives. He glanced at Mabel, her frail frame curled up in her chair, watching him intently. He felt a surge of determination. Her strength had always been a beacon for him. The murmurs began again, but this time, he pushed through. We can brainstorm ways to protect our homes. We can form a watch group. We're not alone in this. There was a flicker of hope in some eyes, igniting a slow nod here and there, but he could feel the weight of doubt pressing down. Old Mrs. Jenkins spoke up, her voice trembling. What if we only make things worse? I don't want to put any more of us at risk. Every day we do nothing makes us more vulnerable. Together, we might stand a chance, Ethan countered, his tone firmer, laced with the urgency of truth. Think about our children, our future. He could see some faces softening, glimmers of resolve breaking through their anxiety. As the meeting wore on, Ethan felt something shift. They exchanged ideas and shared experiences. By the meeting's end, they had laid down plans for a community watch and checked in on each other more frequently. A sense of solidarity washed over the room, and he glimpsed the strength of unity growing like branches in a storm, but just outside their gathering, trouble brewed. Unbeknownst to Ethan, a pair of shadowy figures lurked behind the trees bordering their neighborhood, conversing in hushed tones, their intentions concealed beneath a shroud of night. One of them held a smartphone, glancing at the flickering screen, revealing a map marked with locations of recent attacks. Back in the warmth of the meeting, Ethan felt like he had ignited a spark. If we stand together, we'll keep each other safe. We can't let fear run our lives. His voice rang with conviction, stirring something deep within the group that had long been buried under layers of helplessness. Mabel looked at him, a mix of pride and worry in her eyes. Ethan, she said gently, promise me you won't put yourself in danger. Not for me. Her voice trembled, but he felt the love pulse in every syllable. What would it take for him to convince her he was strong enough? As they parted ways that evening, a wave of purpose coursed through him, but it mingled with an unsettling dread. Later, lying in bed, Ethan stared at the ceiling. The weight of expectation and responsibility loomed over him. The luxurious warmth of the late evening sun gave way to the cold breath of solitude. Could he really protect Mabel and their community? He thought of those shadows from earlier, lurking just out of sight, and a chill crawled up his spine. Then, he heard a soft knock on the wall that separated his room from Mabel's. Ethan? Her worn voice called out. Are you all right? I'm fine, Grandma. Just thinking. Promise me you'll be careful, she said, her tone fragile yet embedded with love. We've been through so much. His mind raced. I promise, Grandma. I won't let you down. But he knew, deep down, that promises often weighed more heavily than he thought. As he drifted into sleep, the thin veil between dreams and reality broke, revealing only shadows dancing in the night. He awoke with a start. The curtain rustled. A figure slipped through the shadows past his window just then. A chilling thought crossed his mind. What if their fight was just beginning? Ethan bolted upright in bed, heart racing, adrenaline surging through his veins. The shadows outside his window merged into a figure, a cloaked silhouette that seemed to blend seamlessly with the night. His breath quickened. Grandma. He called, his voice barely a whisper. Should he jump out and confront this intruder? Or would that only put Mabel in more danger? Without waiting for a response, he threw on a pair of sweatpants and crept toward the window. Every instinct screamed at him to protect his grandmother, to act swiftly yet wisely. He peeked through the curtain, heart pounding in his ears. The figure stood still, a mere silhouette against the dim glow of the moon. Ethan strained to make out features, but all he could see was an ominous form, flickering in the light as it shifted slightly. Panic influenced his thoughts, and he pushed it down. Fear wasn't going to help anyone right now. Maybe it's just the wind, maybe it's nothing, he whispered to himself, but he knew better. When had fear ever stopped at simply being nothing? He turned back towards the door separating him from Mabel. The protective instinct surged again, tightening his chest. What if that figure wasn't just a scared neighbor? What if it was something much more sinister? Tensing, he channeled his fear into determination. I need to check on Grandma, he thought. He opened his bedroom door quietly, taking careful steps down the narrow hallway. The house was still, only the soft creaking of old wood echoed in the quiet, making him feel even more exposed. As he reached Mabel's door, he hesitated for a moment, his hand poised above the knob. What if she is asleep? He bit his lip, terrified that waking her would only cause panic. But he couldn't risk her not knowing the danger that loomed outside. He pushed the door open swiftly, revealing the glow of a small night lamp casting shadows throughout the room. Ethan? Mabel's voice was soft, laced with weariness. She sat up in bed, a quilt pulled up to her chin, her eyes heavy with sleep. There's someone outside. I think it's a threat. Mabel's brow furrowed with worry. What do you mean? Should we call the police? You stay here, he said firmly, though doubt tugged at him. I'll handle it. As he spoke, he realized he was trying to convince both her and himself. No, she pleaded, a tremor in her voice. You can't go out there alone. I have to protect you, Grandma. Please, trust me, he insisted, his heart sinking at the thought of putting her in danger. As he turned to leave, Mabel climbed out of bed, eyes wide with urgency. Then we should go, Ethan. We can't wait. What if it's too late? It was then that a loud crash echoed from outside, a shattering of glass startling them both. A pulse of dread raced through Ethan's body. Fear morphed into action as he grabbed Mabel's hand. We have to move. Right now. In a frantic rush, they darted for the back door. The world outside erupted with distant yells, shadows flickering in and out of view. The chill of the night air grabbed them as they burst outside, breath coming fast and shallow. They needed to run, to escape whatever dark energy lurked in their once quiet neighborhood. As they dashed into the darkness, Ethan fought against the rising panic. He squeezed Mabel's hand, the warmth of her fingers grounding him. They couldn't fail each other, not now. Determination surged within him. He wouldn't let fear win. Just as they reached the edge of their property, he glanced back and caught sight of the figure now clear in the moonlight, a menacing shape, unmoving and watching them. Behind that figure loomed more shadows, and Ethan's heart sank further. This was only the beginning. Faster, Grandma. We have to find a place to hide. He urged, the urgency of the moment driving them forward into the unknown, but a murmured voice stopped him cold. Ethan, weighed against the panic rising in his chest, he turned slowly, gripping Mabel's arm tighter. What now? Who could it be? In that moment, one question loomed larger than the others. What awaited them as they crossed into a night deeper than they ever imagined? Ethan's breath hung in the cool night air as he faced the voice that echoed through the darkness. A figure emerged from the shadows, stepping into the moonlight. It was a woman, her hair cascading wildly around her pale face, eyes wide and frantic. Despite the fear enveloping him, a flicker of recognition sparked within Ethan. Lucy? He whispered, unsure if he should trust her after all that had happened in their neighborhood. Lucy was a childhood friend, someone he hadn't seen in years. She looked disheveled and fearful, and that instantly worried him more. Ethan, please. You have to get out of here. She urged, glancing nervously back towards the street. They're coming. It's not just a random break-in. You need to go now. Mabel clutched Ethan's arm, her eyes darting between him and Lucy. What's going on? She asked, her voice slightly trembling. He could see her mind racing with questions, fear seeping into her old bones. People have been disappearing, Ethan. There's a group, a dangerous group. They're looking for anyone they can use. Ethan's heart sank. Could it be true? Disappearances had been swirling around their small town like a bitter winter wind, whispers in the school hallways of kids vanishing at night. He had always brushed it off as rumors. But why us? He questioned, voice shaky. What do they want? Lucy took a step closer, urgency etched across her brow. I don't know, but they're hunting people who know too much. They've already taken some of my friends right in broad daylight. We have to find a safe place. Mabel's grip tightened on Ethan's arm, fear painting her features. He felt her trembling. Ethan, I don't want to stay here, she pleaded. It broke his heart to see her so frightened, so small. He looked at Lucy, trying to make sense of everything. What do we do then? He asked, desperation creeping into his voice. Where do we go? Before Lucy could respond, a loud crash erupted again, this time coming from a nearby house. Ethan's heart raced as adrenaline spiked through him. He could see it in Lucy's eyes. It was a warning they couldn't ignore. We'll go to the old church on Miller Avenue. Lucy exclaimed. It's abandoned, and it's got a basement. We can hide there until it's safe. Ethan glanced at Mabel, searching for her approval. Grandma, what do you think? I trust you, Ethan, she replied, her voice steadying slightly, though he could still sense her fear. But let us hurry. With a determination he didn't know he could still feel, Ethan nodded. All right. Let us go. They took off in a sprint, the ground rough beneath their feet. The cold wind whipped past them, and Ethan felt the weight of the night close in. Each time they heard a noise or a shout, his heart jumped. He couldn't shake the feeling that something dark was right behind them, closing in. Just as they rounded a corner, Ethan risked a quick glance back. Shadows danced in the distance, moving closer. Panic surged through him. They're coming! He shouted, urgency echoing in his voice. As they turned onto Miller Avenue, he felt Mabel's breath quicken beside him. He could sense her fear pouring into him like liquid ice. They raced toward the church, its weathered outline looming ahead, but as they neared, a faint flicker of light caught his eye. There's someone in there. Ethan called out, halting abruptly. The door swung slightly ajar, a weak beam shining through the crack. Was it safe? Ethan, we can't stop. Lucy shouted, urging them onward. But he hesitated. What if they're already here? He worried, his heart pounding louder than the shouts behind them. Suddenly, a chilling laugh rang out from the shadows, slicing through the night air. You think you can escape us? His heart lurched as Ethan turned towards the voice. There was no doubt now they needed to move, fast. But as they rushed toward the door, the ominous feeling in the air remained. Grandma, hold on tight. He said, knowing they had to stay together. A lump formed in his throat, thinking of how close danger felt. What would happen if they didn't make it? But as they slammed into the church, the door creaking shut behind them, a new question emerged. Would this refuge hold any secrets that would change everything? The door swung shut with a heavy thud, echoing in the silence of the empty church. Dust motes floated through the thin beams of moonlight, sneaking in through cracked stained glass windows, painting the space with an eerie glow. Ethan's heart raced, the thrill of adrenaline mingling with terror. Is it safe? Mabel whispered, looking around as though the walls themselves could spring to life. I don't know, Ethan admitted, his eyes scanning the shadows. The weight of the old wooden pews creaked beneath them, seemingly whispering secrets of long-forgotten prayers. Lucy moved toward the back of the church. We should get to the basement, she said, her voice urgent but strained. It'll be harder to find us there, especially if they come inside. Ethan glanced at Mabel, whose knuckles had turned white as she held onto his arm. Simon, we have to go, he encouraged her. She nodded but stayed close, her eyes wide and searching. As they neared the staircase leading to the basement, a crunching sound echoed from outside the church. It was unmistakable, the approach of heavy boots on gravel. The air felt charged, a tension that made Ethan's skin prickle. They're here, Lucy murmured, her gaze snapping toward the doorway. Mabel let out a small whimper, the fear rolling off her in waves. Ethan gently squeezed her hand, desperate to offer comfort. We'll be okay. We just need to stick together, he promised, even though he wasn't sure he believed it himself. They descended into the basement, the darkness wrapping around them like a thick blanket. Ethan fumbled for his phone, praying for light. He found it and switched on the flashlight, the beam revealing the cold, concrete floor and old, broken furniture piled in the corners. The room felt more like a grave than a refuge. "Do you think they know we're here?" Mabel's voice quivered, her expression a mixture of dread and vulnerability. "I hope not," Ethan said quietly. As he scanned the small space, he spotted a rusted door in the corner. "We might have to barricade that exit just in case." "But what if we need to get out?" Lucy challenged, her eyes filled with fear. "We'll figure it out," he said, forcing confidence into his tone. Just then, a loud thud echoed through the church above them, making dust fall from the ceiling. The wood creaked ominously. Ethan's stomach churned, and he fought the impulse to bolt back upstairs. "Stay quiet," Lucy urged, her voice barely above a whisper. She pressed her back against the wall, eyes wide as they all held their breath. Moments passed. The thuds grew louder, accompanied by hushed voices that filtered down. "Check the basement." The command was barked out sharply, sending a shiver down Ethan's spine. Panic seized him. "What do we do?" he whispered, fear creeping into his voice. "We have to hide," Lucy suggested. "There." She pointed to a shadowy alcove behind some abandoned crates. It was large enough for all three of them. Ethan looked at Mabel, whose eyes were glossed over. "It's okay, Grandma. Just trust me. Stay close." With that, he helped lead her and Lucy into the alcove, their breaths calm but shallow. The footsteps echoed down the creaking wooden stairs, and the room buzzed with tension. Then, the door creaked open above, light spilling into the basement. "Is anyone down here?" The voice was low and menacing, echoing through the stale air. Ethan's heart raced. They were seconds away from being discovered. Would they be pulled into the shadows, too? As they huddled in the darkness, Ethan could only think about how far they had come and how close they were to danger. And just then, he remembered something. The old stories, he murmured, realization dawning. There might be a way out from here. "What do you mean?" Lucy asked urgently, her eyes burning with curiosity and fear. Ethan felt the pulse of hope mingle with his dread. "I think I know a hidden way to escape," he breathed, looking back into the shadows. But would it be enough to keep them safe from the horrors that lurked above? Ethan's breath hitched as he hurriedly explained, "There's a story about this church. They say there's an old tunnel that leads outside, hidden somewhere in the basement. I just need to remember where it is." Mabel clutched his arm tighter, her fingers trembling. "How can you be sure?" Her eyes searched his with a mix of hope and desperation. "I can't be sure, but it's our only shot," he insisted, trying to sound braver than he felt. "If we stay here, they'll find us." "Let us just move," Lucy whispered urgently, glancing back toward the door. The voice from above became more menacing, the footsteps fading into silence for only a moment. Ethan could feel the sweat pooling at the back of his neck. "Over there," he said, pointing toward a wooden beam that looked older and more battered than the rest. "I think there might be a loose panel. Help me." They crawled toward it, the dark shadows swallowing them whole as they moved. Ethan kept the flashlight low, its beam flickering as it illuminated the dust and cobwebs around them. They were maybe 20 seconds away from being discovered, if that. When they reached the beam, Ethan inspected it closely. His hands trembled slightly as he pushed against the old wood, feeling for any give. Mabel's breath was unsteady next to him. Come on," he whispered, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. Just as the tension peaked, the wood shifted under his palm, creaking loudly as he opened a small trapdoor nestled in the beam. "Got it. This way," he shouted, feeling a surge of adrenaline. Lucy peered into the narrow opening. "It's dark," Ethan just climbed down, "I'll go after you." He just had to trust that they would find a way. This was their chance. With shaking hands, Lucy led the charge, squeezing through the passage. Mabel followed, heart pounding, moving more gracefully than Ethan would have expected for her age. Once he was in, Ethan hesitated, glancing back at the darkness that still loomed above. Their only escape was this tunnel. He took a deep breath, feeling the rush of fear and determination wash over him. As he crawled through, the air smelled damp and musty. The walls pressed closely against them, and he couldn't help but imagine all the stories the tunnel held. Would it really lead them out? He urged himself forward, moving with urgency and purpose. They reached a fork in the tunnel, the flickering beam revealing two paths. Which way? Lucy asked, her voice shaking. Ethan's mind raced, remembering fragments of the story he had heard. I think the right way was always to the left back in the day. It felt right, instinctual even. We don't have time for guessing, Lucy said, fear evident in her eyes. Then let us go right, Mabel said suddenly, surprising them both. Trust your instinct, Ethan. His heart swelled at her words. Let us go then, he said, pushing onwards. Just as they started to move again, they heard a loud crash from above, reverberating through the tunnel like a warning bell. They're coming down, Ethan exclaimed, adrenaline charging through him like a wildfire. Run! Lucy yelled, urgency in her voice as they picked up speed, scrambling through the tunnel with every ounce of strength they had left, but as they rushed forward, the walls seemed to close in, and Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that they were running towards something worse than what was behind them. What if it's a dead end? Mabel gasped, panic creeping into her tone. Then we'll find another way, Ethan shouted back, his heart thundering in his chest. We have to keep moving. And then they reached a point in the tunnel where the ground sloped steeply downward, twisting into darkness. Hold tight, he called, pushing ahead. This was either their salvation or their doom. Just as they slid down the slope, he caught a faint glimpse of light at the end. A way out. But at what cost? Ethan could only hope they weren't too late. As they raced toward the light, a deafening sound echoed behind them, a crash that sent chills through his bones. What's down there? Lucy shouted, gripping Mabel's arm. Only one way to find out. They barreled forward, hearts pounding and bodies trembling, desperate for freedom. Just as the light engulfed them, a hand reached out from the shadows behind, giving chase. Keep going, Ethan yelled, feeling the raw weight of survival on his shoulders, but in the back of his mind, a question lingered: what truly awaited them on the other side? The tunnel opened up into a wider chamber, and Ethan stumbled forward, his heart racing as he took in the scene. The faint light ahead pulsed like a beacon, illuminating the damp stone walls around them. Mabel and Lucy followed closely, breathing heavily, their faces pale as they settled into the unexpected brightness. Is this outside? Lucy asked, incredulity dancing in her voice as she squinted towards the source of the light. Before Ethan could respond, a scraping sound echoed from behind. The memory of that reaching hand sent chills down his spine. We have to hurry, Ethan shouted, eyes darting between the two paths branching out before them. Lucy pointed to the left, where the light seemed to pour from an opening. There. We have to go that way. Ethan hesitated, heart pounding in his chest, as the deep thuds of footsteps approached. What if it's a trap? The real trap is behind us, Mabel interjected, pressing her hands to Ethan's shoulders, urgency lighting her eyes. We can figure it out later, but we need to move now. He nodded, letting her words sink in. He had always trusted Mabel's instincts. All right, let us go. They sprinted toward the opening, urgency fueling their legs. The excitement of the light pulled them, promising safety from the chaos left behind. When they burst through the exit, an unexpected cold wind hit them. The three emerged into the back alley of the church, a stark contrast to the dread inside. The sky was still dark, but stars twinkled above like distant sentinels. Where are we? Lucy's breath came out in short bursts as she took in their surroundings. Ethan glanced around, searching for any threats or signs of their pursuers. The alley was narrow, lined with forgotten crates and darkened windows. I think we're still behind the church. We need to find a way out of here. Suddenly, from the other end of the alley, a shadow loomed, casting an ominous presence against the wall. Ethan's heart dropped as he squinted to see who or what was approaching. Mabel! He shouted, pulling her back to him, but it was too late. The figure stepped into the light, revealing a face he recognized but did not expect. Ethan. It was Jake, his old friend from school, with a disheveled appearance and frantic eyes. You shouldn't be here. It's not safe. What do you mean? Ethan asked, confusion swirling within him. Just follow me, Jake insisted, urgency spilling from his voice as he glanced back toward the alley's entrance. They're looking for you. We need to get you out of here now. Mabel caught Ethan's gaze, and fear intermingled with a flicker of hope. What's going on? She whispered, her grip tightening on Ethan's arm. I don't know, but we have to trust him, Ethan replied, feeling the world around him close in once again as dread curled tightly around his gut. As they followed Jake deeper into the darkness, the fear of the unknown crept back in. What's happening? And who's after us? Ethan pressed, trying to catch a glimpse of Jake's expression. Desperate for answers, Jake hesitated, glancing at the ground before looking back at them with an intensity that left no doubt. Things were worse than Ethan had imagined. The church is just the beginning. You'll need to know everything if we want to survive. Just then, a crash sounded from the other end of the alley, and the unmistakable sound of footsteps echoed closer. Run! Jake shouted, and they took off again, adrenaline surging through Ethan's veins. But deep inside, the uncertainty loomed larger than ever. What had they stepped into? What waited for them at the end of this frenzied chase? The pounding of their feet echoed against the brick walls as they raced further into the shadows. Ethan's heart hammered, drowning out everything around him. Jake led them down a narrow passage, his body moving quickly yet with purpose, like he knew the way by heart. Where are we going? Ethan gasped between breaths, struggling to keep up. To an old hideout. It's set up for emergencies like this, Jake called back, glancing over his shoulder. But we have to hurry. They're gaining on us. Fear twisted in Ethan's gut. Who were they? Why did Jake look so frantic? He wanted answers, but running had become their only focus. Ahead, the path opened into a clearing, and Ethan could see the outlines of crates stacked against the wall. This way. Jake pointed to a small door wedged between two containers. The flickering light from a lantern inside cast a soft glow. They darted towards it, and Jake pushed the door open, ushering the girls inside before following them in and shutting it tightly behind them. Crouching in the cramped space, Ethan felt the weight of the world press down on him. The room smelled faintly of oil and rust, but he barely registered it. Mabel's hand found his, squeezing it tight. What's going on, Jake? Jake took a moment to catch his breath, running a hand through his messy hair. You don't know, do you? They're after you, Ethan. You're in danger because of what you found out. What I found out? Ethan felt a million questions rise like a flood. What do you mean? I don't understand. Do you have the pendant? Jake asked urgently. Ethan blinked, taken aback. The pendant? I didn't bring it. You have to be kidding. Jake turned away, frustration pooling in his features. That was our only hope. The church wasn't just a random place. There are people after it, after you, because of what it can unlock. A chill ran through Ethan as everything started to connect. The odd behavior of the townspeople, the whispers, the warnings. Unlock? What could it unlock? Mabel's grip tightened on his hand as she watched Jake closely, searching for answers. Ethan, what the heck is happening? We're in this together. You need to tell us everything. Before he could respond, loud banging against the door jolted them. The sound echoed in the tiny hideout, sending adrenaline shooting through Ethan's veins. "They found us," he said, eyes wide with panic. "Shoo." Jake placed a finger over his mouth, his eyes darting with urgency. "They must VE tracked us. We can't stay here. What do we do?" Lucy's voice trembled slightly, fear cutting through her usually strong demeanor. Jake moved closer, his determination stark. "We have to get to the old sewer system under the church. It's our only way out. Now stay close and follow me silently." With another loud crash, the door strained under the force. A rush of adrenaline shot through Ethan. "Come on." They slipped out through a side vent just in time, Jake leading the way into the dark abyss. Ethan could hear the distant echoes of voices and hurried footsteps closing in. As they raced through the dark passages, Ethan's mind swirled with confusion and an urgency he couldn't shake. What could they finally uncover beneath the town? What did the pendant truly mean? Suddenly, they entered a larger chamber. As Ethan looked around, the air shifted, charged with anticipation. Jake gasped, "This is it. If we want to understand, we have to face what comes next." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. Shadows danced on the walls, and somewhere in the dark, he could feel eyes watching them. What lay ahead could change everything. Would they be ready for the truth? The larger chamber was damp and echoing, the atmosphere heavy with an unspoken tension that wrapped around them like a cold blanket. Ethan's heart hammered louder as he took a cautious step forward. The flickering light from the lantern cast shadows that seemed to move on their own, and he felt a shiver crawl down his spine. "Stay close," Jake whispered, but the urgency in his voice was tempered by a strange hesitance. What do you think is in here?" Lucy asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan could see her eyes wide with fear, yet there was also a spark of determination within them. "Possibly answers," Jake replied, his voice steadying. "Or maybe the truth we've been avoiding. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out together." As they moved deeper into the room, Ethan's gaze fell on an ancient mural painted on the wall across from them. The colors were faded, but the images were striking. People in flowing robes surrounded a large object that looked oddly like the pendant. Hearts raced, and for a moment, the world around Ethan faded away, replaced by questions swirling like a storm in his mind. Mabel, still holding Ethan's hand tightly, stepped closer to the mural. "Do you see that? They're all looking at it like it holds something important." Ethan leaned in closer, tracing the contours of the pendant with his fingers. The feeling was electric. This must be connected to the stories we heard, the legends the town keeps buried, or hidden. Jake edged closer, studying the illustrations. "If that pendant unlocks something, it could be more powerful than we know. We need to be careful." Just then, the crack of a distant footfall shattered the fragile calm in the chamber, echoing ominously. Panic surged through Ethan as he exchanged glances with Jake. He could see the dread mirrored in his friend's eyes. "Ethan, we have to hide," he urged, voice tense. Mabel's grip tightened further as Ethan pulled the girls toward a pile of crates. They ducked behind them, holding their breaths, senses heightened. The footfalls grew louder, nearing the entrance of the chamber, and the whisper of murmurs floated through the air. "I think I heard them go this way," a voice called out, sending ripples of fear through Ethan. "Darn it, we don't have much time," Jake muttered, his hands balling into fists. "They're right behind us." As fear coursed through him, Ethan realized they couldn't just stay hidden. They had to confront whatever was lurking in the dark. "What do we do?" he asked, voice low. "Look," Jake pointed to a stone door, half hidden behind a curtain of ivy. "If we can reach that, we might find another way out." With adrenaline fueling their movements, they made a silent dash toward the door, hearts pounding in rhythm. Shadows flitted around them, but their focus remained on the door. Just as they reached it, the heavy footsteps stopped, and the voices grew frantic. "Where do they go? They can't just vanish." Ethan's breath hitched. He turned, eyes darting to the entrance where dim light seeped through, illuminating the dust motes suspended in the air. "Come on." With a swift movement, Jake pushed the door open, revealing a narrow passage beyond. As they slipped through, Ethan felt a sense of foreboding wash over him. What if they were trapped? What awaited them on the other side might be just as dangerous, but they had no choice. They had just unearthed something significant, something connected to the pendant, and whatever was pursuing them wasn't going to stop without a fight. As they rushed forward into the unknown, Ethan's mind raced with questions. Would the truth behind the mural lead them to safety, or had they only stepped deeper into a web of danger? The tension hung thick in the air, and every heartbeat echoed with uncertainty. In the rush, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Where would their next choice lead them? Ethan's heart hammered in his chest as they plunged deeper into the dimly lit passage. Each step felt like they were walking on the edge of a knife, the walls closing in on them as the echoes of their pursuers faded into silence. The air grew heavy with anticipation and fear, it was almost suffocating. "What if this just leads us into another trap?" Lucy murmured, her voice shaking with uncertainty. Mabel's grip on Ethan's hand tightened, a reminder of the responsibility weighing on him. "We need to keep moving," he urged, his voice steadier than he felt. "We can't turn back now." They pushed forward, the passage winding unpredictably as if the earth itself was eager to hide its secrets. With each corner they turned, Ethan felt the weight of Mabel's anxiety like a palpable force pressing down on him. They were running out of time. Suddenly, the tunnel opened into a grand chamber, the size of which took his breath away. A massive stone altar dominated the center, draped with vines and shadowed in mystery. Ancient symbols carved into the walls flared to life under the flicker of their flashlight, casting strange patterns that danced across the cold stone. "Is this what they were guarding?" Jake whispered, awe mixing with fear as they took in the sight. Without thinking, Ethan stepped closer to the altar. Maybe this is where the pendant fits. His fingers brushed against the surface, feeling a strange pulse of energy beneath his hand. Something about it felt alive. As if reacting to his touch, a low rumble echoed through the chamber. The walls trembled lightly, rattling loose debris from the ceiling. Ethan pulled his hand back, heart racing. "What was that?" "I think we did something," Lucy gasped, glancing over her shoulder nervously. The panic rose again as the low vibrations intensified, reverberating through the floorboards and set their teeth on edge. "We need to find out what's happening." "We might not have much time," Jake urged. "If they're after you, Ethan, they'll come for you next." Mabel looked up at him, her face alight with determination despite the fear darkening her eyes. "You have to be the one, Ethan. If it means keeping us safe, we'll follow you." Taking a deep breath, Ethan scanned the room for any clues. He noticed a small indentation at the center of the altar, the exact size of the pendant. Without thinking further, he pulled it from his pocket, feeling its cool weight reassuringly in his palm. This was the moment. With a steadying breath, he placed the pendant in the indent. Immediately, the room erupted in a brilliant light, blinding them for a heartbeat. The sound of grinding stone filled the air as a hidden door slowly creaked open. "Get back!" Jake shouted, tugging Mabel away from the altar. Ethan felt a rush of exhilaration and dread collide in his chest. They had uncovered something amazing, but that also meant they had unleashed whatever had been trapped for ages. As the shimmering light faded, a staircase descended into darkness. The ground trembled beneath them, a warning against hesitation. "We have to go down, or we might not make it out of here," Ethan urged. Having no choice left, they descended into the darkness. Each step felt like a plunge into the unknown, and the air thickened with a sense of magic and danger. At the bottom, they found themselves in a massive underground chamber filled with echoes of water dripping and a gentle glow emanating from crystalline formations on the walls, but they weren't alone. Figures appeared, emerging from the shadows, people trapped, like ghosts caught between worlds. Ethan's heart sank. "These are the ones who disappeared," he whispered, staring wide-eyed at the hollowed faces. One amongst them stepped forward, a man with stormy eyes that seemed to harbor centuries of pain. "You've come to free us," he intoned, his voice echoing with ancient wisdom. "What do we need to do?" Ethan felt urgency fill every nuance of his words. "Please, tell us how to help you." "The pendant chooses its bearer wisely," the man continued, scanning the trio with a knowing look. "But it bears a heavy truth. Are you willing to release us from our prison? It will come at a cost. The very fabric of what you know will change." Ethan felt a shiver run down his spine. "We're ready. Please just tell us how." The weight of responsibility surged again, but this time it felt lighter, replaced with purpose. Mabel took a step forward, strength in her wizened eyes. "Together, we stand united. We will not let fear dictate us anymore." The spirit's face softened with appreciation. "Then break the seal, and your destinies will intertwine with those lost. You have only to speak the truth that lies in your hearts." Taking a deep breath, Ethan nodded, heart racing. They would do this together, there was no turning back now. This was their moment to change everything. Uniting, he, Mabel, and Lucy grasped the pendant, channeling their combined strength into it. "Together, we set you free," they declared in unison, the words resonating deep within. All at once, a tremendous light burst forth from the pendant, illuminating the chamber and shining a beacon of hope through the darkness. Echoes of forgotten souls rose with the light, and the spirits of the dispossessed began to shimmer and fade like morning mist at dawn. As Ethan felt their burdens lift, joy and relief washed over him. A realization struck deep within: hope was a powerful force, and love alone had led them here. In that moment of liberation, Mabel turned to Ethan, tears of joy glimmering in her eyes. "You've done it, Ethan. You truly are my hero." A surge of warmth filled his heart hearing her words. They had faced their fears, and together they emerged victorious. As the last echoes vanished, a new opening appeared, a path that would lead them back to the surface. They had forged an unbreakable bond, written their names in the annals of their town's rescue story, but above all, they had learned that unity against darkness made them stronger than fear ever could. Ethan turned to Jake and Lucy. "We did it. We not only set them free but freed ourselves as well. Let us go home." With fresh determination lighting their way, they stepped toward the exit, ready to embrace the dawn as emerging heroes of their own tale. At that moment, hope hung thick in the air, sweeter than any cookie Mabel could bake. Their lives were irrevocably changed, but with the dawn, their future looked brighter than ever. Now it's time for you to take action. You need to subscribe now to catch the next thrilling adventures and transformations. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep these stories alive. Comment below your thoughts and feelings about this epic conclusion. Your voice matters. And don't wait not even one more second to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Real fans know how crucial it is to rally behind your favorite stories.